Mom refuses to cooperate with the police after her son goes missing amid a custody battle. Greetings to all. Today, we're going to go into a disturbing incident that has shocked the town due to a mother's unwillingness to participate. Together, let's solve this riddle. As we continue to learn more, don't miss the following episode. Leave a comment below with your ideas and subscribe for updates. I appreciate your attention. Her sister, Nancy, vanished without a trace, leaving 2 young kids motherless. It seemed as though she vanished from the face of the planet. At this point, it only acknowledges Tiller's version of events. He just flatly refused to engage in any kind of cooperation. Is a coworker withholding information? You're telling me that you had sex, but did the single mother's unexpected sexual life ultimately lead to her death? I had to take a step back and double blink. Inside, there were sex toys. Her entire family was unaware of what was happening in their lives. Nancy Moyer, who is somewhat tired, poured herself a glass of wine to start the weekend on this chilly Friday night in Washington. The single mother's world revolved around the little kids, while she worked full-time as an accountant for the Washington State Department of Ecology. When the kids were very small, she would call them, and when they had to send her home from work, she would cry, longing to be with him. She had not been apart from him since divorcing her spouse 2 years prior. The welfare of her daughter was Nancy's first concern. She wanted the children to have both a mother and a father. She was thus making a great effort. Additionally, co-parenting seems to be effective. Nancy spent the week with the girls. Bill used to have them on weekends. Under the circumstances, taking care of the children and maintaining their normal, joyful lives was their top priority. Managing a full-time job and raising 2 small children were their top priorities. Nancy had a hectic week, but on the weekends she could enjoy her single life. I knew that she went on a few dates here and there. However, there was no scheduled date for Friday night. Weary, Nancy was just going to relax. She also went to the grocery store after work, having dropped off a coworker earlier. It was almost 6 o'clock. When she pulled up on Friday night, a policeman I had spoken with earlier that night saw her alone. He was using the radar at the intersection where the warehouse was located. He witnessed her taking out the suitcases and escorting him inside the house. Strangely enough though, that was the last time anyone claimed to have seen Nancy Moyer. Later that evening, a neighbor thinks he heard her. A car's sound reached his ears. Just as the car door closed, he heard a whisper, "Hurry up. Now let's move forward." Nancy's neighbor assumed she was talking to her children, which she reported her disappearance 2 days later. Without giving it much thought, Bill Moyer was dropping the kids off at his unusual wife's house on a typical Sunday night. However, he detects a strange thing about the house when he arrives. She never missed a pickup or drop-off, and neither did I. Therefore, it was completely uncharacteristic of her to be absent. It felt wrong right away. It was cold outside, but Nancy had left her front door open. It was not out of the ordinary. Sometimes she would go on walks around the neighborhood. After bringing the kids inside, we waited for a short while, assuming that she would return from her walk. However, she didn't. Bill brought the girls back to his house and returned a little later when Nancy didn't show up. When we returned, we discovered that she had left behind her cell phone, pocketbook, and keys, all of the typical belongings you would expect to take with you, or that they were still in the house. She only finished half of a glass of wine at the table, and everything else appeared to be in its usual place. It was as if she had simply disappeared immediately. Sharon, Nancy's sister, knew there was a problem after their weekend separation. She'd never regret going to see them that evening to greet them and give them hugs. Late on Sunday night, Bill reported a missing person to the police. And the following day, David Howler, a retired investigator, took over the case for the Thurston County Sheriff's Department. What level of bizarreness does this case fall into? Detective Howard had to first ascertain Nancy's exact disappearance date. According to the information I was able to gather during my inquiry, it appeared that Bill had opened the front door of the house sometime between 11:30 and 12 o'clock. Do you believe that this was a particularly cold time of year? Given the fact that gas heated her home, I decided to investigate the utility account. Additionally, I could observe the surge. Nothing was missing from the house, according to the detectives. There was no indication that anyone else had even been inside, nor was there any indication of forced entry. Our prints were on 2 glasses. On each of those eyewear pieces, her prints were visible. We hoped to discover some fingerprints that weren't hers, in case someone else in the room was drinking or engaged in other activities. None were discovered by us. Given the dearth of evidence in the case, investigators focused on Nancy's divorced husband right away. How did you feel when the detectives began to look at you as a potential person of interest? I have some idea of how it operates. I mean, statistically speaking, the husband is always the top suspect. But I also saw it as a fast way to cleanse my name. Bill readily consented to a polygraph examination, which he aced. Did they inform you about your elimination early on? Yes, they even said on national television that the husband is not a suspect. Indeed, officers then focus on a fellow employee. He had reached out to her the weekend before her disappearance, leaving a message on her mobile. As a result, he sparked my interest. The coworker claims that he and Nancy had planned a date for Saturday night. He told us he was just really enamored with her. He claims that although her front door was open when he got there, Nancy was not there. He called out to her and walked away. Detective Heller asserts that he verified the coworker's Friday night alibi at that time. The child said, "You know Dad's home." Throughout that entire evening, he remained where he was. During a re-interview, a fresh investigator received a different account of the same coworker's relationship with Nancy. During his interrogation with Detective Hauer, he admitted to trying to have sex with her, but he was unable to deliver a performance. She also spent the night, got up, ate breakfast, and left for home. When I conducted his interview, he engaged in sexual activity. That evening, she returned home. Just the complete opposite. However, Detective Ben Elkins discovered additional suspicious activity. I asked if you knew Nancy Morton's whereabouts, and if so, please let me know. This individual responded, "Not at all." I give him the "oh, wait a minute" expression. "No, really? Could you tell me where Nancy Moyer's body is?" He also snacks. "No." The colleague answered the initial polygraph question, the results of which were equivocal. "Is he ready to accept it now?" We essentially said, "I'm not sure." No one has ever implicated the coworker in Nancy's disappearance or considered her a suspect. Detective Elkins, however, intends to question him once more. Furthermore, the police are not targeting him alone. Let's now examine a meat merchant who faces allegations of killing macabre. We uncovered a bag of that meat in the freezer. Did the missing mother vanish as a result of her covert extramarital affair? Essentially, it seems that Nancy's new lifestyle may have played a role in her death, correct? Indeed. I appreciate you looking. Remember to subscribe and like our YouTube channel.